Rain slicked the pavement into a mirror, stretching police lights into long, bleeding streaks. Maya Carter stood beside her car with her palms open, fingers numb from the cold and from holding herself still. She had learned early how stillness could be mistaken for safety. "License and registration," the officer said, already impatient, already certain. She passed them over. Name. Her face. The pause that followed told her everything. His eyes moved back to her, then to the car, then to her again. Too long. Too slow. Like he was assembling a story that didn't need facts. "You step out for me," he said. "What's the reason?" Maya asked, keeping her voice level. The officer smiled without warmth. "Don't make this difficult." A second cruiser rolled in. Then a third. Doors opened. Radios crackled. The street quieted, as if holding its breath. Hands touched her arms. Firm. Unnecessary. "I didn't do anything," she said, louder now. Phone came up across the street. Someone whispered. "You people always say that," the officer replied, low enough to feel personal. Cold metal closed around her wrists. The click echoed louder than the rain. Maya's chest tightened, not from fear of jail, but from the familiar weight of being reduced. Not Maya. Not her degrees. Not her work. Just a problem to be managed. As she was guided toward the cruiser, her phone vibrated in her pocket. Once. Then stopped. The officer leaned close and said the line she would replay for months. "No one important is coming for you." The back door opened. The city lights blurred. Somewhere a call went unanswered. And somewhere else a name, hers, hit the wrong desk. The door slammed shut. Maya Carter noticed the patrol car before it noticed her. She always did. It idled too long at the intersection, headlights fixed, engine humming like a held thought. She checked her speed, her mirrors, the turn signal she didn't need but used anyway. The lights came on as she pulled away. She exhaled once, slow, deliberate, and eased to the curb. Rain tapped the roof in uneven beats. She placed her hands on the steering wheel where they could be seen. The officer approached from the rear, boots splashing through shallow puddles. His flashlight swept the back seat, then her face. "License and registration," he said. Maya reached carefully. "They're in my bag. I'm going to get them." He didn't answer. She took that as permission. He studied the documents longer than necessary. "Where you headed?" "Home." "From where?" "Work." "What kind of work?" She looked at him. "Is there a problem, officer?" His jaw tightened. "Step out of the vehicle." She opened the door. Cold air rushed in. She stood, hands visible, posture neutral. "What's the reason?" she asked. "You're matching a description." "Of what?" "Step back," he said. Another cruiser arrived. Then another. The street filled with red and blue, washing over parked cars, apartment windows, faces behind curtains. Maya felt eyes on her. Phones lifting. No one speaking. An officer circled her car. "Mind if we search?" "I do," she said. "I don't consent." The first officer laughed softly. "That's cute." Hands took her arms. She stiffened. "I haven't done anything." "Stop resisting," someone said. "I'm not resisting." Metal closed around her wrists. The cuffs were too tight. She swallowed, steadying her breath. A woman across the street whispered, "Oh my God." "Turn around," the officer said. "I am turned around." He leaned in. "You want to make this worse." Maya said nothing. Silence had always been safer. They guided her toward the cruiser. Rain streaked her glasses. She couldn't wipe them. A phone camera hovered inches from her face. "What happened?" a voice asked. "No comment," the officer snapped, blocking the view. Maya caught her reflection in the cruiser window. The image looked smaller than she felt. Inside the car, the door opened, the officer paused. "You people think you're above the law," he said quietly. She met his eyes. "I think I deserve it." He smirked. "Not tonight." The door shut. The sound echoed, final and heavy. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. She couldn't reach it. The vibration stopped. At the precinct, they walked her through fluorescent halls that smelled like disinfectant and old coffee. A desk sergeant glanced up, then back down. Name: Maya Carter. Charges were discussed around her, not with her. Obstruction. Resisting. Suspicion. She sat on a bench, cuffs still on, listening to keyboards click. Hours passed. Or minutes. Time flattened. A young officer approached. You got someone to call? Yes. He unlocked the cuffs long enough for her to dial. Rang once. Then voicemail. She hung up, jaw tight. The officer shrugged. Try later. They led her to a holding cell. The door closed. The bench was cold. Maya leaned back, eyes closed, rain still echoing in her ears. Somewhere above, paperwork was already hardening into truth. And the city, indifferent, kept moving. The holding cell smelled like bleach and metal. Maya sat on the bench with her back straight, hands folded where the cuffs had left pale rings. A clock ticked somewhere she couldn't see. Each second landed with the same weight. A guard passed, glanced in, kept walking. Excuse me, Maya said. Her voice echoed thinly. Can I get a phone call? The guard didn't slow. You had one. I need another. He stopped this time, turned. You need a lawyer. I know. Then wait. The door down the hall buzzed. Laughter drifted from an office. Printer whined. Life continued in rooms she wasn't allowed to enter. An officer appeared with a clipboard. Carter. Yes. Stand up. She did. He opened the cell and gestured her out. Follow. They walked past desks stacked with files. Her name was written on one tab, black marker, crooked. She felt the urge to straighten it and hated herself for the thought. They stopped at a counter. A woman behind it didn't look up. Name: Maya Carter. Address: she gave it. Employment: policy analyst. The woman paused, eyes lifting for half a second, then returned to the form. Employer. Maya said it. Any prior arrests? No. The woman clicked her tongue. There's a first time. Maya didn't respond. Charges, the woman continued, reading from the screen. Obstruction. Resisting arrest. Failure to comply. I didn't. Ma'am, the woman said flat. This is not a discussion. Maya pressed her lips together. The officer leaned on the counter. Sign here. What am I signing? Your acknowledgement. Of what? That you were processed. She hesitated. The officer's voice hardened. You want to sit longer. To sign. They took her fingerprints. Ink stained her fingers, black and stubborn. A flash popped as her photo was taken. Chin up, the photographer said. She lifted her chin. The camera clicked. Next. They led her to a small room with a table bolted to the floor. A man in a rumpled suit waited inside, tapping his pen. I'm your public defender, he said, standing. Mark Feldman. She shook his hand. Maya Carter. He sat, motioned for her to do the same. I'll be brief. These are standard charges. I didn't do anything, she said. I know, he replied quickly. That's not what I mean. He slid a paper toward her. They'll likely offer release on bail. Don't make statements. Don't argue. Let the process work. The process did this, she said. He met her eyes. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm saying it's predictable. She laughed once, sharp. Predictable for who? He didn't answer. A knock interrupted them. An officer poked his head in. Time. Mark stood. I'll see you at arraignment. When is that? Morning. He hesitated at the door. One more thing. Do you have anyone prominent? Anyone who might call? Maya stared at him. Why? He cleared his throat. It changes how fast things move. She shook her head. No. He nodded, not convinced, and left. They escorted her back to the cell. Another woman sat on the opposite bench, arms wrapped around herself. What you in for? The woman asked. Traffic stop, Maya said. The woman snorted. Aren't they all? Silence settled between them. Hours passed. Maya's phone buzzed again in the locker down the hall, unheard. A name filled the screen. Lena. At dawn, they moved Maya to a transport van. The woman from the cell was gone. In the courtroom, the judge read charges without looking up. The prosecutor spoke in practiced phrases. Flight risk, he said. Non-compliant behavior. Maya's jaw clenched. Mark stood. My client has no prior record. She cooperated fully. The judge nodded, eyes still on the file. Bail set. The gavel struck. The sound reverberated through Maya's chest. They returned her belongings. Her phone felt heavier than it should have. She turned it on. Missed calls filled the screen. Voicemails stacked. She listened to the first. Maya, it's me. Call me back. The second was tighter. Where are you? The third had no words. Just breathing. Then a hang-up. An officer watched her. You good? She nodded. Outside, the rain had stopped. The city looked scrubbed raw. As she stepped onto the sidewalk, a reporter called out. Ms. Carter. Any comment? She kept walking. Behind her, inside the building, a supervisor reviewed the arrest report. He skimmed, nodded, signed off. Looks clean, he said. The officer who'd arrested her leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Told you. The supervisor glanced at him. Keep your head down. The officer smiled. Always do. Across town, Elena Carter stood in a quiet office, phone in hand, staring at the missed calls. Her assistant hovered. Something wrong? The assistant asked. Elena looked up. Find out where my sister is. The assistant blinked. Your sister? Yes, Elena said, already dialing. Now. Back on the street, Maya stopped, finally, and looked at the courthouse. Its stone steps rose solid and indifferent. She pressed play on the next voicemail. Maya, Elena's voice said, low and urgent. Something's happening. Stay where you are. Maya closed her eyes. The system had already moved. The story was already written. And it hadn't finished with her yet. Elena Carter learned to read silence the way others read headlines. It was a skill built over years of briefings, pauses, the careful omission of names. When Maya didn't answer her calls, Elena felt the absence like static. Subtle, wrong, persistent. She stood by the window of her office as the city woke. Sunlight cut between buildings, sharp and pale. Her phone lay face up on the desk, unmoving. Still nothing, her chief of staff asked quietly. Elena shook her head. That's not like her. Could she be in a meeting? At 6 a.m. Elena turned. No. She picked up the phone again, dialed. Straight to voicemail. Pull her last location, Elena said. The chief hesitated. You know the protocols. I know, Elena replied. Use them. Minutes later, the chief returned with a tablet. Her car was pinged near 9th and Alder last night. Then nothing. Elena's jaw tightened. Police precinct. Yes. Elena closed her eyes for a brief second. Just long enough to steady herself. Find out which one, she said. Quietly. Across town, Maya sat at her kitchen table, untouched coffee cooling in front of her. She hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard the cuffs click again. Her phone rang. Elena. Maya. Relief flooded Elena's voice, then sharpened into something else. Where have you been? At the precinct. What? They arrested me. Silence. Heavy. Controlled. Are you hurt? Lena asked. No. Charged. Yes. With what? Maya listed them. Each word felt unreal saying it out loud. Elena exhaled slowly. I'm coming. No, Maya said. Don't. Lena paused. Why? Because the moment you show up, this stops being about what happened and starts being about who you are. And who you are, Elena said softly. Maya pushed back her chair. I want this handled right. Not erased. I can make calls. I know, Maya said. That's the problem. Another silence. This one shared. Tell me everything, Elena said. Maya did. And stop. Tone. Cuffs. The line he'd said. When she repeated it. No one important is coming for you. Her voice broke despite herself. Elena's hand tightened around the phone. He said that. Yes. Okay, Elena said. Okay. What does that mean? It means I'm not calling anyone yet. Maya frowned. That doesn't sound like you. It is today. They ended the call with no resolution, only a promise to stay in touch. Elena turned back to her office. The chief of staff waited. Which precinct? Lena asked. Central. Arresting officer. Officer Daniel Reese. Elena nodded. She didn't write the name down. She didn't need to. Any prior complaints? She asked. The chief shifted. A few. Nothing sustained. Nothing ever is, Elena said. She walked to her desk, opened a folder marked Oversight. Inside were memos, reports, patterns. Names blurred together. Incidents dismissed as isolated. She added one more mental note. At a coffee shop near the courthouse, Maya met with Mark again. He slid documents across the table. They're pushing hard, he said. Prosecutor's office isn't backing down. Why? Maya asked. Mark hesitated. Because backing down looks like admitting fault. So they double it. Yes. She leaned back. Do they know who my sister is? He shook his head. Not officially. Maya nodded. Keep it that way. Mark studied her. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I'm making it honest, she replied. Outside, a television in the window played a news segment. The sound was off, but Maya recognized the footage. Flashing lights, her own blurred figure being led away. The caption read, Local woman arrested after traffic stop escalation. That's me, she said. Mark glanced, then looked away. They're framing it. I know. Back at the precinct, Officer Reese leaned in his chair, boots on a desk. A colleague tossed him a coffee. Heard you made the news, the colleague said. Reese smirked. About time. She resisting. Always do, Reese replied. You know the type. The supervisor passed by, paused. Watch it, Reese. Reese raised his hands. Just facts. The supervisor moved on. Reese took a sip, eyes on the screen replaying the arrest. He looked comfortable, untouchable. Across town, Elena sat in a meeting she barely heard. Words washed over her. Policy, language, optics. She thought of Maya's voice. The crack she hadn't expected. When the meeting ended, she stayed behind. Cancel my afternoon, she told her assistant. For what reason? Elena chose her words carefully. Family. The assistant nodded, said nothing. Elena picked up the phone and dialed a number she rarely used. This is Elena Carter, she said when the line connected. I need information. Not favors. Then. Of course, ma'am. No. Elena corrected. Not ma'am. Not yet. She ended the call and sat back. This wasn't about exposure. Not yet. It was about understanding the machinery before touching the switch. That evening, Maya stood in her apartment, lights off, watching the city from her window. Sirens wailed somewhere distant. Her phone buzzed. A text from Elena. I'm looking into it. Quietly. Maya typed back, thank you. Just don't disappear it. 3 dots appeared. Then vanished. Then a reply. I won't. Maya set the phone down. Her hands still shook. She realized then what hurt most wasn't the arrest. It was the certainty in his voice. The confidence that no one would challenge him. Somewhere, Officer Reese slept easily. Somewhere else, a family name sat unspoken, heavy with consequence. And between them, a system waited to see which silence would break first. By the time Maya appeared in court again, the story had already been rewritten. She felt it in the way the prosecutor avoided her eyes, in the way the bailiff's tone shifted when he said her name, stretching it slightly as if testing its weight. The courtroom smelled faintly of old paper and disinfectant. The benches were half full. A few reporters sat near the aisle, notebooks open, pens poised. Mark leaned close. "They've amended the report." "Amended how?" Maya whispered. "Expanded," he said. "Details added after the fact." She stared ahead. "Details that weren't there." "Yes." The judge entered. Everyone stood. Everyone sat. The prosecutor rose. "Your Honor, the defendant displayed erratic behavior during a lawful stop, refused repeated commands, and incited public disruption." Maya's fingers curled into her palm. Mark stood. "My client complied at every stage. There is no body camera footage supporting these claims." The prosecutor nodded, almost regretful. "Unfortunately, the body cameras were not operational at the time." A murmur rippled through the room. Maya felt heat rise in her chest. "Not operational," she repeated under her breath. The judge looked over his glasses. "That's noted. Not questioned. Not challenged. Just noted." Outside, the headline was already drafted. "Technical issues complicate arrest case." The language was careful, neutral, bloodless. After the hearing, Maya stood at the courthouse steps as microphones appeared, blooming like metal flowers. "Ms. Carter, do you feel the police acted appropriately? Do you believe race played a role? Are you connected to any political figures?" Mark stepped in front of her. "No comment." Maya said nothing. Silence felt like the only thing still hers. Across town, Elena watched the clip on mute. She replayed it twice, focusing not on Maya but on the framing. The way the camera lingered on the word defendant at the bottom of the screen. Her deputy entered. "We pulled internal records on Officer Reese." Elena turned. "And 7 complaints over 9 years. Excessive force. Racial bias. All cleared." "Cleared how?" "Insufficient evidence. Witnesses deemed unreliable. Body cam failures." Elena nodded slowly. "Patterns don't exist until someone names them." At the precinct, a meeting convened behind closed doors. Supervisors sat around a table, files spread open. "The press is sniffing," one said. "Let them," another replied. "We followed protocol." "Did we?" a third asked. Officer Reese leaned back, arms crossed. "She resisted. I wrote it up." The room quieted. The captain cleared his throat. "Just keep your mouth shut. Let the paperwork do its job." Reese smiled. "It always does." Maya met with Mark later that afternoon in a narrow office that smelled like stale coffee. "They're offering a deal," he said. "For what?" "Plead to a lesser charge. Time served. Case closed." "And my record?" "Not clean." She shook her head. "No," Mark sighed. "You understand the risk." "I understand the cost," Maya said. "I won't say I did something I didn't do." He studied her. "This could drag on." "Let it," she replied. That night, Maya scrolled through articles about herself. Each one flattened her into a headline. Local woman. Suspect. Defendant. Her phone buzzed. Elena. "They're shaping the narrative," Maya said before Elena could speak. "I know," Elena replied. "They're very good at it. Are you still staying out of it?" "Yes," Elena said. "And no." Maya waited. "I haven't intervened," Elena continued. "But I've observed. And I've documented." "For what?" "For when observation is no longer enough." The next morning, a journalist named Aaron Lee requested an interview. He sat across from Maya in a quiet cafe, recorder on the table. "I'm not here for sound bites," he said. "I'm here for patterns." Maya looked at him. "Then you're looking in the right place." She told him everything, slowly, carefully. He didn't interrupt. When she finished, he asked one question. "Do you believe this would have happened if you were someone else?" "Yes," she said. "And that's the point." Aaron nodded. 2 days later, his article ran online. It didn't name Elena. It didn't speculate. compared reports, quoted policies, listed prior complaints. The headline read, "When procedure becomes a weapon." At the precinct, phones rang. Supervisors muttered. Reese read the article twice, jaw tight. "This is bullshit." Colleague shrugged. "Doesn't look good." "It's a hit piece." "Maybe," the colleague said. "But it's thorough." At the courthouse, the prosecutor received a call. Then another. At her apartment, Maya watched the article spread. Comments flooded in. Some supportive, some cruel. She closed the app. Her phone rang. Elena again. "It's starting," Elena said. "What is?" "The story is slipping out of their control." Maya sat on the edge of her bed. "And then what?" Elena paused. "Then they defend the institution. Not the truth." Maya thought of the judge's voice. The word noted. She looked out the window at the city, glowing and indifferent. The narrative had been formed. Hardened. Official. Now it would have to be broken. And breaking things always left pieces behind. The first call came before sunrise. Elena was already awake, scrolling through overnight updates, watching the article fracture into reactions. When her secure line rang, she didn't hesitate. "Yes, ma'am," the voice said carefully. "There's movement." "Define movement." "Internal Affairs has opened a preliminary review." Elena closed her eyes for half a second. "On whose authority?" "Technically, was routine oversight." "Nothing is routine," Elena said. "What triggered it?" "The article. And some calls from oversight committees asking uncomfortable questions." Elena nodded, though the caller couldn't see it. "Good. Keep me informed. And remember, I asked for information, not protection." "Understood." She ended the call and sat still. This was the moment institutions pretended to act before being forced to. Across town, Maya learned the same news from Mark. "They've opened an internal affairs review," he said, sliding his phone across the table. Maya didn't smile. "That doesn't mean anything." "It means they're nervous." "It means they want control," she replied. Mark leaned back. "You're right. But it also means they're watching their own." Maya stared at the window. Outside, people passed without looking in. "They're not watching him," she said. "They're watching the optics." At the precinct, the atmosphere shifted. Conversations lowered. Doors closed more often. Officer Reese felt it immediately. A sergeant stopped him in the hallway. "Captain wants to see you." Reese scoffed. "About what?" "You know what." In the captain's office, the blinds were drawn. The captain didn't offer a seat. "Internal Affairs is reviewing your arrest report," he said. Reese crossed his arms. "I followed procedure." "Then you have nothing to worry about," the captain replied, though his tone suggested otherwise. "They got no body cam," Reese said. "End of story." The captain studied him. "Sometimes the absence tells its own story." Reese laughed. "That's poetic. Doesn't hold up." "Watch yourself," the captain said. "No statements. No interviews." Reese turned to leave. "I didn't ask for this." "No," the captain said quietly. "But you created it." That afternoon, a second article dropped. This one broader. It connected Maya's case to 3 others. Different years, same officer, same phrases. The comments exploded. At Maya's apartment, her phone buzzed non-stop. She muted it and sat on the floor, back against the couch. Her doorbell rang. She froze, then stood, heart racing. Through the peephole she saw Aaron Lee. She opened the door a crack. "You shouldn't be here." "I know," he said. "But they're trying to discredit the reporting. I wanted you to hear it from me." She let him in. "They're saying I'm biased," he continued. "That I have an agenda." Maya almost laughed. "Welcome." "They're floating a counter-narrative," he said. "That you were uncooperative. That the article cherry-picked data." "Did it?" "No," Aaron said. "That's why they're nervous." She Saturday, "What do you need from me?" "Nothing," he said. "This phase isn't about you speaking. It's about them responding. As if summoned, Maya's phone lit up with a notification. Police union defends officer amid unfair attacks. She closed her eyes. The statement followed predictable lines. Split-second decisions, dangerous job, rush to judgment. No mention of her name. She's invisible again, Maya said. For now, Aaron replied. Visibility comes later. At the courthouse, prosecutors huddled. One of them spoke sharply. This is getting away from us. We stick to the charges, another said. Let the review play out. And if it doesn't go our way. Silence. We adjust, the first prosecutor said. Quietly. That evening, Elena sat with a small team in a conference room that officially didn't exist. No logos. No phones. What are our constraints? One advisor asked. Elena folded her hands. No direct interference. No public statements. No use of my position. And unofficially. Information flows, Elena said. Oversight bodies function as designed. If they don't, that failure becomes visible. The advisor nodded. There's a risk. There always is, Elena replied. The risk is pretending neutrality where there is none. At the precinct, Reese scrolled through his phone, jaw tight. They're dragging my name, he muttered. A fellow officer glanced over. Maybe lay low. I didn't do anything, Reese snapped. She played the victim. Careful, the officer said. That language is why they're circling. Reese stood abruptly. I'm done apologizing for doing my job. He didn't notice the internal memo posted an hour later. Officer Reese placed on administrative leave pending review. Maya found out from the news alert. She stared at the words, waiting to feel something. Relief didn't come. Neither did satisfaction. She called Elena. He's on leave, Maya said. I saw. This doesn't fix anything. No, Elena agreed. It changes the terrain. What happens now? Now they decide whether to sacrifice one person to protect the system, Elena said. Or expose the system to save credibility. Maya sat on the edge of the bed. And me. Elena's voice softened. You're already exposed. The next day, Internal Affairs requested Maya's testimony. Mark reviewed the request. They want your statement on record. Maya nodded. I'll give it. Be precise, he said. They'll look for inconsistencies. My story hasn't changed, she replied. At the precinct, Reese packed his locker under supervision. His smile was gone. This is temporary, he told himself. It always is. But as he passed the bulletin board, he caught his reflection in the glass. For the first time he didn't look untouchable. Across the city, systems adjusted. Statements were drafted. Lawyers prepared. And beneath it all, the truth pressed upward. Not dramatic, not loud, but relentless. Exposure didn't arrive as a single moment. It arrived as pressure. And pressure, once applied, rarely stopped where anyone intended. Collapse never announces itself. It begins with hesitation. Officer Reese felt it when the second letter arrived. Not certified. Not formal. Just a notice. Internal Affairs requesting supplemental documentation. Clarifications. Timelines. He read it twice, then a third time. They already have this, he muttered. But the language was different now. Not routine. Conditional. As if his certainty had been downgraded to a hypothesis. At headquarters, a task force assembled without ceremony. No press release. No banner. Just analysts and auditors pulling files that hadn't been touched in years. Start with use of force reports, one analyst said. Cross-reference complaints, another added. And flag camera failures, a third said. Especially repeat failures. The spreadsheet grew. Red cells multiplied. In a quiet office downtown, Maya received a call from Mark. They're widening the scope, he said. To what? Maya asked. To him, Mark replied. And then past him. She closed her eyes. What does that mean for my case? It means your arrest stops being an isolated event. That helps me. It helps the truth, he said. Those aren't always the same thing. At the precinct, officers avoided Reese's locker. Conversations stopped when he entered rooms. A sergeant he'd known for years nodded once and kept walking. He confronted the captain. You letting them hang me out? Reese demanded. The captain didn't look up from his desk. I'm letting the process run. The process is political, Reese said. The captain finally looked at him. So was your confidence. Reese scoffed. I did my job. You did a job, the captain said. Now it's being reviewed. Reese left without another word. That afternoon, the Oversight Committee requested records from the prosecutor's office. Charging decisions, declinations, plea patterns. A prosecutor stared at the email, jaw tight. They're fishing. Another replied. They're mapping. Across town, Elena sat with 2 advisors and a stack of memos. They're preparing a containment strategy, one advisor said. Limited exposure, individual accountability, and systemic review. Elena asked. The advisor hesitated. Optional language. Elena nodded. Optional until it isn't. She made no calls. She issued no directives. She let the machinery grind against itself. Maya attended her next hearing with a different feeling in her chest. Not hope. Awareness. The prosecutor spoke with less certainty. His sentences hedged. The judge listened longer. Mark leaned in. They asked for a continuance. Maya raised an eyebrow. Why? Because their evidence isn't as clean as they said. The judge granted it. Outside, a reporter called out, Miss Carter, do you feel vindicated? Maya stopped. He turned. I feel documented, she said. She walked away. The following week, Internal Affairs released preliminary findings. Not conclusions. Findings. Inconsistencies noted. Procedural deviations identified. Further review warranted. The police union issued a statement expressing concern. Reese read it on his phone, fingers numb. This is how it starts, he told himself. Then it stops. But it didn't stop. A former complainant came forward. Then another. Different years. Same officer. Same phrases. Aggressive demeanor. Failure to de-escalate. Camera malfunction. Pattern no longer deniable. In a conference room, a deputy chief spoke carefully. We need to consider discipline. The union rep bristled. On what basis? Accumulation, the deputy chief replied. Reese's name was spoken without honorific. At Maya's apartment, Elena visited for the first time since the arrest. No security, no staff. They sat at the kitchen table. You didn't have to come, Maya said. I wanted to, Elena replied. They sat in silence. He's losing cover, Maya said. Yes, Elena said. That doesn't mean he'll lose everything. Maya nodded. It never does. Elena looked at her sister. How are you holding up? Maya considered the question, then answered plainly. I'm tired of being accurate. Elena absorbed that. Accuracy is expensive. So is silence, Maya replied. At the precinct, Reese was formally notified of a disciplinary hearing. Possible outcomes listed. Suspension. Termination. Referral. Referral. The word sat heavy. He called the union rep. They're pushing me, Reese said. The rep sighed. They're protecting the institution. By sacrificing me. By narrowing liability. Reese hung up. For the first time, he felt alone inside the system he'd trusted. The prosecutor's office filed a motion to dismiss charges against Maya. Mark called immediately. They're dropping it, he said. Why? Maya asked. Insufficient evidence. She laughed once. Try. It was always insufficient. Yes, Mark said. But now it's inconvenient. The dismissal came without apology. Without explanation. Maya read the notice and felt nothing loosen inside her. Across the city, the disciplinary board convened. Reese sat at the end of a long table. No friendly faces. Findings were read. Reports cited. Prior complaints recontextualized. Reese spoke once. "I followed my training." A board member replied. "Training does not absolve discretion." The vote was taken. Administrative separation. Pending further review. Reese stared at the wall as the words landed. In the aftermath, statements were issued. Leadership pledged reform. Training updates were announced. Language softened. Elena watched the press conference on mute. "They'll call this accountability," an advisor said. Elena nodded. "They always do." At night, Maya walked the block alone. The city felt the same. That was the cruelest part. Her phone buzzed. "Elena." "It's done," Elena said. "No," Maya replied. "It's concluded." She stopped under a streetlight and looked up. The light flickered, then steadied. The system had bent. Not broken. And the bend had cost something. Maya felt it settle into her bones. Not triumph, not relief, but clarity. Collapse was never the end. It was the moment after, when everyone decided what they were willing to rebuild, and what they would quietly leave the same. The charges disappeared with a click. Maya read the dismissal notice 3 times before setting it down. The words were precise, sterile. Insufficient evidence. No acknowledgement of error. No reference to harm. Mark called 10 minutes later. "It's over," he said. "It's finished," Maya replied. "That's different." He didn't argue. "Do you want to talk next steps?" "There are no steps," she said. "There's just after." She ended the call and sat at the table, hands flat against the wood. The apartment felt unfamiliar, as if it had been rearranged while she was gone. Every sound registered too sharply. The refrigerator hum, a car passing, a neighbor's door closing. Vindication was supposed to feel lighter than this. Elena arrived that evening carrying groceries neither of them needed. She set them on the counter without comment. "They dropped it," Maya said. "I know. They didn't apologize." "They won't." Maya nodded. "I didn't expect them to." They cooked in silence. The rhythm helped. "I keep thinking," Maya said finally, "that if I hadn't known you could intervene, I would have felt smaller." Elena looked up. "You didn't use that." "I know," Maya said. "But knowing it existed mattered." Elena considered that. "Power as reassurance. Power as shadow," Maya replied. "It was there even when it wasn't used." The food tasted like effort. The next morning, Maya returned to work. Her badge opened the door without hesitation. Co-workers smiled carefully. "Glad you're back," one said. "Me too," Maya replied, though she wasn't sure it was true. In a meeting, her manager cleared his throat. "We're here if you need flexibility." "I need competence," Maya said. "From institutions." The room quieted. At the precinct, Officer Reese packed the last of his things under supervision. Cardboard box. No ceremony. A reporter waited outside. "Any comment?" Reese said nothing. He didn't look at the camera. The department released a statement citing commitment to reform. Training modules were updated. Language adjusted. Maya read it online during lunch. She closed the tab. In the weeks that followed, invitations arrived. Panels. Interviews. Ads. Mark forwarded them. "You can shape the narrative." Maya declined most. "I don't want to become a case study." "You already are," Mark said. "Then I don't want to perform it." Elena watched her sister navigate the attention with restraint. "You're allowed to be angry," she said one night. "I am," Maya replied. "I just don't want my anger monetized." They walked together through a park. Parents watched children on swings. Dogs pulled leashes. "Nothing looks different," Maya said. "That's the design," Elena replied. "Stability over justice." Maya stopped. "Do you ever think about what it costs you?" Elena met her gaze. "Every day." They stood in the shade of a tree. Leaves rustled overhead. I didn't ask you to stay quiet, Maya said. You didn't have to, Elena replied. Silence is part of the job. Does it change you? Yes, Elena said. But not in the way people think. How? It teaches you how much noise the system can absorb without changing, Elena replied. And how much pressure it takes to force a recalibration. Maya nodded. And the people in between. Elena didn't answer immediately. They pay. At work, Maya noticed her own changes. She documented more. She trusted less. Meetings felt performative. A colleague asked, "Are you okay?" "I'm operational," Maya replied. At night, sleep came unevenly. The click of cuffs returned without warning. The phrase replayed, "No one important is coming for you." She wrote it down once, then crossed it out. In the media, interest waned. New stories replaced hers. The cycle moved on. Reese's name appeared briefly in a follow-up article, then vanished. The institution settled. One afternoon, Maya received a letter from Internal Affairs. A formal acknowledgement. No apology. She folded it and placed it in a drawer. Elena called later. "They want me to speak at a reform summit. Will you?" "Yes." "Will it matter?" Elena paused. "It will matter to the people who need to hear that the system admits nothing without pressure." Maya leaned against the window. "And to me." Elena's voice softened. "To you, it will matter that you didn't disappear." Maya considered that. On a quiet evening, she returned to the street where it had started. The pavement looked ordinary. No markers. She stood under the same streetlight. It flickered once, then held. A passerby glanced at her, then away. Maya felt the weight of what she had lost. Not freedom, not reputation, but ease. The ability to move without calculation. She also felt what remained. Precision. Memory. Refusal. Her phone buzzed. "Lena. Dinner?" Lena asked. "Yes," Maya replied. She turned and walked away from the curb. The cost had been paid unevenly. It always was. What mattered now was how she carried it. Without spectacle, without forgetting, without letting the system define the size of her life. The city kept moving. So did she. After the noise faded, what remained was procedure. Maya learned this in the weeks that followed, when the story resolved into footnotes and policy memos. The department announced reforms with careful verbs: review, update, enhance. No one said admit. No one said harm. Life resumed in pieces. She returned to routines with a new awareness of their fragility. The morning commute. Badge swipe. The meeting agenda that pretended neutrality. Each step carried a calculation she hadn't needed before. At work, a junior analyst stopped her in the hallway. "I read about your case." Maya waited. "It made me think," the analyst continued, "about how power moves." Maya nodded. "Power moves whether you think about it or not." The analyst absorbed that and walked away. In a conference room downtown, Elena addressed a panel on institutional trust. Cameras rolled. Applause followed measured statements. "Accountability," Elena said, "is not a moment. It is a process that resists completion." The audience nodded. Notes were taken. The summit concluded. Afterward, an advisor leaned in. "You were careful." Elena replied evenly. "Careful is different from honest." At the precinct, the reforms settled into routine. Trainings were scheduled. Checklists updated. Posters replaced. Officers adapted quickly. They always did. A supervisor closed a file labeled Reese D. and placed it in storage. The cabinet slid shut with a dull click. Maya noticed changes in how people spoke to her. More measured. More cautious. She noticed changes in herself more. When a patrol car slowed near a crosswalk, her body tightened before her mind did. When an officer asked a question, she answered with precision, not trust. She began documenting everything. Dates, times, phrases. Not for a case. For herself. One evening, she met Aaron Lee again, briefly, in a public park. "I'm moving on to another story," he said. Different city. Same pattern. Maya smiled thinly. There always is. You don't regret speaking, he asked. No, she said. I regret that it was necessary. He nodded and left. In the quiet that followed, Maya took stock. The system had conceded something, but not much. One officer gone. Language adjusted. Procedures renamed. The larger architecture remained. She thought of the people who hadn't had a sister in proximity to power. The ones whose cases never breached the surface. At dinner one night, Elena watched her closely. You're different, she said. Yes, Maya replied. I'm finished pretending otherwise. What will you do now? Maya considered. Live carefully. Speak selectively. Build leverage where I can. Elena nodded. That's strategy. No, Maya said. That's survival. They cleared the table together. Months later, Maya received a message from a woman she didn't know. I saw what happened to you. Happened to me too. I didn't fight it. I just wanted you to know. Maya replied once. See you. She saved the message and closed the app. On the anniversary of the arrest, the city issued a report. Metrics. Progress indicators. Maya skimmed it and set it aside. That night she walked again. Not to remember but to reclaim. The street lights still flickered. The pavement still reflected whatever stood above it. She stood there briefly, then moved on. Elsewhere, Elena prepared for another briefing. Another careful speech. Another calibrated truth. Before leaving, she sent Maya a message. Proud of you. Maya read it and didn't reply immediately. Pride felt complicated. But she accepted the sentiment. In the end, no ceremony marked the conclusion. No plaque. No closure. Only continuity. Maya understood then what aftermath meant. Not healing. Not forgetting. Integration. She integrated what she'd learned into how she moved, how she spoke, how she assessed risk. She integrated loss without letting it become her identity. The system absorbed the shock and continued. Slightly adjusted. Marginally aware. That was its talent. Maya's was different. She noticed. She remembered. She refused to disappear. And in that refusal, quiet, persistent, uncelebrated, the story found its final shape. What remained did not announce itself as victory. Maya understood this on a Tuesday morning months later, standing in line at a pharmacy, when a police officer stepped in behind her. The bell above the door rang softly. No urgency. No lights. Just presence. Her shoulders tightened before she could stop them. She focused on the counter. On the sound of the register. On the ordinary. The officer didn't look at her. He waited his turn, paid, and left. Nothing happened. And yet something had. That was what remained. Not fear exactly. Calibration. She paid, stepped outside, and breathed in the cold air. The city moved around her, indifferent and intact. She walked home slowly, cataloging sensations the way she'd learned to do after the arrest. Heart rate, breath, tension, release. At home she opened the notebook she kept now. Not a journal. Record. March 12. No incident. Still reacted. She closed it and placed it back in the drawer. At work, a new policy draft circulated for comment. Language about community trust. De-escalation culture. Maya read it carefully, then opened the comment section. She didn't write emotionally. She wrote precisely. He cited gaps, ambiguities, enforcement failures. When she hit submit, she felt a familiar resistance, an internal check that asked whether this was worth it. She answered it without hesitation. Across town, Elena reviewed briefing materials before a closed-door meeting. The agenda listed reform milestones. Metrics trending upward. Public confidence stabilizing. She knew how to read between those lines. After the meeting, a colleague lingered. You've been quieter lately. Elena gathered her papers. No. I've been listening. That's not always rewarded. Elena met her gaze. Neither is pretending not to hear. At lunch, Elena called Maya. "Are you free tonight?" she asked. "Yes." "Good. I want to cook." "You always say that when you want to talk." Elena smiled. Still true. That evening they cooked slowly. No news playing. No phones on the table. "I've been thinking," Elena said, slicing vegetables. "About proximity. To power?" Maya asked. "To consequence," Elena replied. "I sit near decisions. You sit near outcomes." Maya considered that. "And the people with neither. They absorb both," Elena said. They ate in silence. Later Maya walked home alone. The air was sharp. Streetlights cast long shadows. A group of teenagers laughed loudly across the street. Bus hissed to a stop. Someone argued into a phone. Life unremarkable. She thought of Officer Reese. Not with satisfaction, not with pity, but with clarity. He had not been a monster. He had been enabled. That distinction mattered. Weeks later, Maya received an invitation. Not public, not official. Closed meeting. Community advocates. Policy staff. No press. She attended. When it was her turn to speak, she didn't tell her story from the beginning. She assumed it was already known. She spoke instead about aftermath. "Everyone asks what justice looks like," she said. "But the more important question is what happens after attention leaves." The room stayed quiet. "After," she continued, "is when people learn whether change was real or cosmetic. After is when habits return. Or don't." A man across the table asked, "What do you want?" Maya answered without pause. "Durability." At home that night, she slept through until morning. The dreams still came sometimes, but they no longer controlled the night. On the anniversary of the dismissal, Elena sent Maya a single message. "Still standing." Maya replied, "Still watching." Neither added more. Months later, a new case surfaced in another district. Similar stop. Similar language. Different outcome. Charges dropped within days. Maya read the article twice. Something had shifted. Not enough, but something. She closed the browser. That evening, she returned once more to the street where it had begun. Not to confront it. Not to reclaim it. Just to confirm it no longer owned her. The light held steady this time. No flicker. She stood there briefly, then turned away. What remained was not a scar she showed to others. It was a map she carried privately. Of danger, of power, of silence, of leverage. She knew where not to linger. She knew when to speak. She knew what documentation could do. She also knew this. The system would not save itself. And it would not save her. But it could be pressured, bent, interrupted. And she could live fully without waiting for permission. Maya walked home, steps even, breath steady. The city did not change for her. She changed within it. And that, quiet, disciplined, irreversible, was the final outcome no report would ever record. Justice did not arrive as an apology. Maya understood this when the final notice appeared. Not in her mailbox, not on her phone, but buried in a public agenda item released on a Friday afternoon. Administrative separation finalized. Certification under review. Language calibrated to sound decisive without sounding responsible. She read it once. Then again. That was it. No call. No acknowledgement of harm. No recognition of cost. Just consequence. She closed the document and sat back. For the first time since the arrest, she felt something loosen. Not relief, but completion. The system had done what it always did. Minimized exposure, contained liability, preserved continuity. But it had also removed him. And removal mattered. Across town, Daniel Reese sat in a sparsely furnished apartment, uniform folded in a box he hadn't opened in weeks. The television murmured to itself. A legal notice lay on the table beside unpaid bills. He read the words again. Separation sustained. No qualifiers. No return path. The institution he had trusted had narrowed the damage until only he remained inside the frame. He thought of the night of the arrest. Not with regret, but with disbelief. The certainty he'd felt then was gone, replaced by something colder. Replaceability. He turned the television off. At Maya's office, the announcement passed quietly. No email blast. No meeting. A colleague mentioned it in passing. Looks like they let him go. Maya nodded. That happens. The colleague hesitated. You okay? Maya considered the question. I'm intact. That was the most accurate answer she had. That evening, Elena came over without warning. She carried no briefcase. No phone. It's final, Elena said. I saw. They'll say it proves the system works. Maya smiled faintly. They always do. Elena studied her sister. How does it feel? Maya took a moment. Like the right person paid a price for the wrong reason. Elena frowned. Explain. He paid because the pattern became visible, Maya said. Not because what he did was wrong. That distinction matters. Elena nodded slowly. It does. They sat together, the quiet, comfortable. You know, Elena said, there are people who think I should have done more. And people who think you did too much, Maya replied. Yes. They're both wrong, Maya said. You did what you could without turning me into a shield. Elena exhaled. That line is hard to hold. You held it, Maya said. Outside, the city hummed. Sirens passed without urgency. Life continued. Weeks later, Maya testified once more. Not in court, but before a closed review panel. No cameras. No applause. She spoke plainly. Removing one officer does not address why removal took this long, she said. Or why others before me were ignored. A panelist replied. We are committed to learning. Maya met his gaze. Then learn from outcomes, not language. When she left the building, no one followed her. No one stopped her. That absence felt earned. Months passed. Maya's life expanded again. Not dramatically, not suddenly, but deliberately. She traveled. She laughed more easily. She trusted selectively. She stopped bracing at every intersection. The notebook stayed in the drawer. Still there. No longer open daily. One afternoon, she received a letter forwarded from a community clinic. No return address. Because of what you did, I didn't plead. They dropped it. Thank you. Maya read it twice and folded it carefully. She didn't frame it. She didn't share it. She let it sit where it belonged, in the quiet ledger of cause and effect. On a late autumn evening, Maya and Elena walked together along the river. The water reflected the city in broken lines. You know, Elena said, people still don't know who you are to me. Maya smiled. Good. And they never will, Elena added. That's also good, Maya said. They stopped at the railing. Do you regret not using my position? Elena asked. Maya shook her head. No. Because then the story would have been about exception. And now it's about exposure, Maya said. And consequence. Elena nodded. Poetic justice. Not poetic, Maya corrected. Structural. They stood there until the air grew cold. Elsewhere, a training video played in a precinct classroom. A new module. New language. Old room. Some officers watched carefully. Others waited for it to end. Change like justice arrived unevenly. But it arrived. Maya returned home that night and stood by her window. The city lights blinked steadily. No sirens. No interruption. She thought of who she had been before the stop. She thought of who she was now. Not hardened. Not broken. Informed. The system had not redeemed itself. It had adjusted under pressure. That was its nature. She no longer waited for it to be better. She had learned how to live anyway. Maya turned off the light and went to bed. The story did not end with triumph. It ended with balance. Uneven, incomplete, real. And in that balance, she found something more durable than revenge. She found agency. And that was justice enough.